Welcome to Life-Changing Stories, where every story teaches a lesson.
What if I told you that a marriage everyone in Anambra admired, a marriage people pointed at and said, "This is what true love looks like," ended in silence, regret, and tears, not because of cheating, not because of poverty, but because of a single question a mother asked her daughter? This is not just a story. This is a warning. In the bustling town of Akwa, Anambra State, where life moved fast and families held tightly to tradition, lived a young man named Chuka. Chuka was the kind of man every parent prayed their daughter would marry. Calm, responsible, focused. But more than anything, he had a heart that did not forget where he came from. He met Ifunanya on a quiet Sunday afternoon after church. It wasn't love at first sight the way movies show it. It was better. It was real. They started with small conversations, simple greetings, then longer talks that stretched into evenings. Before long, they became each other's habit. Ifunanya was everything Chuka wanted: respectful, soft-spoken, intelligent. She wasn't loud, but she had a presence that brought peace. And Chuka made her feel safe. Not with money, not with gifts, but with consistency. When he proposed, she didn't think twice. She had seen enough to know this was a man she could build a life with. Their wedding was beautiful, not overly expensive, but full of joy. Family members danced, friends laughed, elders prayed over them. And as they stood side by side, smiling into their future, people whispered, "This one will last." Marriage began the way every marriage should: peaceful. They didn't have everything, but they had enough. Chuka worked tirelessly, moving between Akwa and Onitsha, doing business, making sure there was always something on the table. Ifunanya managed the home with grace. There was laughter in their house. Even when money was tight, there was understanding. Even when stress came, there was patience. They were not perfect, but they were happy. But there was something about Chuka that defined him deeply. He loved his mother. Mama Chuka was a widow who had suffered. She had sold food in the market under the hot sun, struggled through sickness, and denied herself comfort just to raise her son. So when Chuka finally stood on his feet, he made a silent promise: "My mother will never suffer again." And he kept that promise. He sent her money regularly. He checked on her. He visited when he could, not because anyone forced him, but because gratitude lived in his heart. And in the beginning, Ifunanya understood. She respected him for it. Sometimes she would even say, "You are a good son," and Chuka would smile. Everything was balanced. Everything was fine. Until one visit changed everything. It was during a trip to the village. Ifunanya had gone to see her mother, Mama Ngozi. The visit started normally. Food was served, stories were shared, laughter filled the compound. Then, slowly, the conversation changed. Mama Ngozi looked at her daughter carefully and asked, "My daughter, how is your marriage?" Ifunanya smiled. "It's good, Mama. My husband is trying." There was a pause. Then her mother asked a second question, a simple question, but dangerous. "Does he take care of you well, or he spends more on his own mother?" Ifunanya blinked. She hadn't expected that. "Mama, he takes care of both of us." But her mother shook her head slightly. "Be careful, my daughter. Her voice dropped. Some men will marry you, but their heart will still be in their mother's house. That sentence stayed. At first, Ifunanya ignored it. She went back home, hugged her husband, and continued life as usual. But something had changed. A small thought had entered her mind. Days later, when Chuka mentioned sending money to his mother, she remembered. When he said he wanted to visit, she remembered. When he bought something, she started to compare. Before, she never counted. Now, she measured everything. Then came the phone calls.
Wait! Before we continue, quickly subscribe, because the ending of this story will shock you.
Her mother would ask, "Hope you are not being cheated. Hope you are not suffering in silence. Remember, you are the wife." Slowly, love turned into calculation. Peace turned into suspicion. One evening, Chuka returned home, tired but happy. He dropped his bag and smiled. "Ifunanya, I sent some money to my mom today. Her shop needed repairs." Before, she would have said, "That's good." But this time, she asked, "How much?" Chuka paused. It was a simple question, but it didn't feel simple. "Why are you asking?" Her tone changed. "Because I deserve to know." That night, they argued for the first time. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but something had shifted. From that day, it didn't stop. Every act of kindness toward his mother became a problem. "Why must you always send money? Why is she always your priority? Am I not your wife?" Chuka tried to explain, "Ifunanya, she's my mother." But those words no longer meant anything to her, because now it felt like a competition. And the truth was, it was no longer just Ifunanya speaking. It was her mother's fears living inside her. Even when Chuka tried to reduce how often he visited, it wasn't enough. Even when he assured her, she didn't believe him. Because once doubt enters, trust begins to leave. Their home changed. Laughter disappeared. Silence became normal. Conversations turned into arguments. Chuka, who once rushed home with excitement, started staying out longer. Not because he didn't love his wife, but because home no longer felt like peace. One night, after a long argument, he sat quietly. He looked at Ifunanya, the woman he once couldn't live without, and asked, "When did I become your enemy?" She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Because deep down, even she didn't know when everything changed. Time passed, but instead of healing, things got worse. Distance grew, emotions faded, and what was once love became exhaustion. Until one day, they both stopped trying. And just like that, the marriage everyone admired ended. Months later, Ifunanya sat alone in a quiet room. No laughter, no voice calling her name, no one to share her thoughts with. Just silence. She thought about everything, the beginning, the love, the peace. And then, the truth hit her harder than anything before. Nothing was wrong with my marriage until I allowed someone else to tell me there was. Tears rolled down her face, but this time it was too late. Because some mistakes don't just break moments, they break homes. And in the end, she didn't lose her husband in one day. She lost him in small moments of doubt, comparison, and influence. So listen carefully. If you are married or planning to be, not every advice is wisdom, not every concern is love, And not every voice you trust should control your home. Because sometimes the thing that destroys a marriage doesn't come from outside enemies. It comes from the people you love who don't even realize the damage they've done.
Welcome, subscribe now, because the next story might change your life.